Ladies and gentlemen, don't touch that dial. It's time to tune into Murder, where you, the audience, become the detective and solve the crime. Brought to you by our many fine sponsors, including Homemade Theater. I'm your host, Hugh Dunnette, bringing you this week's mystery, From Birth to Death, starring that darling detective duo, Gordon Martini and Olive Rossi, the no-nonsense, all-knowing neighbor, Mrs. Lucy Marbles, and the hard-hitting, hard-talking ace in a deck of detectives, Jack Diamond. Let's listen to tonight's episode, Train of Command.
All aboard the Liberty train, delivering a very valuable cargo. Red-blooded Americans heading overseas to help us win that war. Next stop, Denver, en route to New York City and Grand Central Station. We leave in 5 minutes, folks. All aboard!
Okay, Jack, here are your tickets, your grip, and the files on your next case, just in case you want to do a little light reading.
Thanks, doll. You're one in a million. I'd be broke if it weren't for you, Penny.
You are broke, but I don't mind working for IOUs. You sure you don't want me to come along and keep you company during those long, boring hours?
No, baby. Just head back to the office and tidy it up a bit. We wouldn't want our prime real estate being condemned on us. I'll call you when I get to New York.
You know, it wouldn't be any trouble to tag along and help out. I've got everything I need right here in my bag. Unless
you got a few sawbucks stashed in there, you're more help keeping the home fires burning back here. Now take off, kid. You know I hate long goodbyes.
Jack Diamond, I don't know what I see in you, but they say love is blind.
Well, here's looking at you, kid. And it better be of those great legs of yours walking away. Now go before this gets too mushy.
Like that'd ever happen. See you in the funny papers, Jack.
Hey, buddy, I was wondering if you could tell me where...
General Mayhem is expecting you in the club car, sir. 13th one back from here.
How'd you know?
You're not the only one who could do a little sleuthing, sir. I see a lot in my daily travels. Keeps me on my toes, you know. 1, your reputation procedure, Mr. Jack Diamond. 2, I overheard your conversation with your secretary. And 3, the general asked me to keep an eye out for you and the others and to tell you all where to go.
I hope it wasn't to hell in a handbasket. Thanks. Catch me for a tip later.
Excuse me, sir. Would you be a dear and tell me where?
The club car is? It's 13 cars back from here, Miss Rossi.
I believe our reputations precede us, Olive, darling. There wouldn't by any chance be...
2 very dry Gordon's gin martinis, shaken, not stirred, with 2 olives each waiting for you, Mr. Martini. But of course, you're expected.
With service like this, how can this goodwill tour not be a success? Thank you, my good man.
Pardon me, but may I inquire?
Miss Marbles, the club car's 13 cars back from here.
I see that General Mayhem is his usual thorough self, not overlooking any details. Thank you, Conductor.
Think nothing of it, ma'am. Please let me know if there's anything else I can do for you during this trip. It'll be a pleasure to serve you.
Well, I will let you get back to your work. I don't want to throw off your schedule by dilly-dallying.
Last call. All aboard for Denver, Omaha, Chicago, Cleveland, Pittsburgh, Washington, Baltimore, Philadelphia, and New York City. All aboard!
When you've been in the business as long as I have, you notice things. If you don't, you might suddenly notice you're dead. So instead of heading right for the club car, I decided to do a little walking on the rails first, jumping into the first car I came to and working my way back. Did I notice anything? I noticed plenty. But notice I'm not sharing the goods with you yet. I'm taking my cue from the good old U.S. Army. We're all on a need-to-know basis these days. So when you need to know what I know, I'll know when to tell you. Anyway, it wasn't long before I was standing in front of a closed club car door. I did the only thing I could do. I knocked.
It's open. Come on in.
I waltzed into the club car and did a little more noticing, like there was no one else in the car except for the general and a very attractive orderly behind the bar, standing about, that tall and looking about 2 clicks past drop-dead gorgeous. She flashed one of those "what can I get you" smiles as she wiped an impeccably clean bar down with her left hand. "Morning, General. Nice digs you got here. So, what's the beef?"
Beef? Who said there's any beef? I mean anything wrong.
"Really, General? You want to play it that way? Okay. Stop me if I get anything wrong. First off, I'm not the only one you invited to this little dance. I got that much from the conductor. My little train tour let me lay eyeballs on fellow sleuths and lushes, Martini and Rossi, as well as America's nosiest neighbor, Mrs. Marbles. Most of the cars are wide open, but the one before and after this one have sentries at each end. There's no one in the car but you and your very attractive bartender with a killer of a smile to match the killer of a Colt she has in her right hand under the bar. How am I doing so far, sir?"
I prefer the Browning, Mr. Diamond. 2 more shots and 2 more dead enemies for the country.
"I surrender. Would you like to frisk me now, or wait till you get me home?"
Oh, cut the cute repartee crap, Diamond. Lieutenant, put your gun away and pour us around. Our guest would like Old Crow. Neat. I'll have more of the same. See, Diamond? You're not the only one who can do a little undercover work. Come in.
General Mayhem?
Oh, correct, Miss Rossi. Thank you for coming. Could I interest you two in perhaps
A drink? It would be terribly impolite for us to refuse your hospitality.
I agree, Gordon, darling.
Lieutenant, would you please,
2 martinis made to order, ready to be shaken and poured.
Sooner or later, I'll actually get to finish giving a command. This should be the last member of our hearty little band. Come on in, Miss Marbles.
Good afternoon, General.
Excellent. Now that we're all here, I believe introductions are in order.
"Not necessary. In our racket, you could say all of us are on a need-to-know basis already."
You have such a distinctive way of stating the facts, Mr. Diamond.
"You know it, doll. And call me Jack. Mr. Diamond is my father."
Okay, we're past the banter portion of the afternoon. What can we do for you, General?
Yes, how can we help? You really don't need all of us for a goodwill tour to promote security on the home front. It must be some undertaking if you need all of our services.
Yeah, you're correct, ma'am. Lieutenant, would you please take one of the guards outside and go get the package?
Yes, sir. Excuse me, ladies and gentlemen.
Now, while we wait for the package to arrive, let me give you some background. Things are slowly starting to turn around for the Allies, but over the past few months, an ugly pattern's developed, almost as if the Axis planted someone in our midst.
A mole?
Well, we think that's quite possible, and it couldn't happen at a worse time, frankly. We're on the brink of a great discovery, a process that would not only address our energy supply problems, but also provide the punch to help shorten this bloody war.
I take it you are referring to atomic power.
Ah, yes, ma'am. We need to stay ahead of the Germans, and our package will really help with that.
You send for me, General.
I don't think any of us were prepared for the package that waltzed into our little meeting of the minds. The baby blues on this package were framed by a pair of tortoiseshell glasses and set this jackrabbit's heart a-racing. Surrounded all with long whiskey gold tresses, the reddest sunset of lips, then wrap it all up in angel white gossamer. Before my brain could stop my mouth, I let out a slow whistle and crooned. "General, that's one hell of a package you got there, and the wrapping makes me wish that it were Christmas morning all over again."
This is your attempt at American humor, no? I do not get this, nor will you get this package.
Touché, my dear. Score 1 for the women of the world.
Oh, can it, Diamond? Dr. Hedda knowledge is way out of your league. Doctor, allow me to introduce you to Miss Lucy Marbles, Gordon Martini, Olive Rossi, and, unfortunately, Jack Diamond.
I am delighted to meet 75% of you.
Now, The progress that the doctor has made in nuclear physics can help us win the war. She's just about perfected a process to release and harness energy at an atomic level, and though she refuses to believe it, her life is in grave danger because of her knowledge. We've intercepted message of a plot to kidnap her, or silence her for good. Only a few of my staff know she's on this train, and we want to keep it that way. She's an important date at the Pentagon. We need your help in seeing that she makes this meeting, and more importantly, we want you to help us ferret out any moles that could be on this train before they do any more damage.
I think we can handle this job for you, General. I believe you can count on all of us, sir.
Certainly.
Absolutely.
Of course.
Good. Well, you have your country's thanks. Now, why don't you take a few hours to refresh yourselves? I'll have dossiers delivered to your compartments in about 15 minutes, so you can get better acquainted with the doctor and her work. And we'll reconvene here about 1700 hours for dinner. Thank you all. Dismissed.
Since our little club meeting was breaking up, I figured now was as good a time as any to apologize to the doc for my bad manners. Doc, sorry if I came on a little strong back there. You're just not what I expected for a nuclear physicist.
You should expand your mind and your perceptions, Mr. Diamond. You might learn something of value.
Well, book learning was never my strong suit. I'm much better with hands-on learning experiences. Interested in mentoring me in that area?
There is that quaint American humor of yours again, no? It makes as much sense to me as my equations do to you.
Okay, Uncle, I give up. You win. I'll be a good Boy Scout. I'll even escort you back to your room.
No, that won't be necessary. I'm quite capable of
I
getting
insist. And if we're supposed to protect you, the least I can do is walk you home and see that you get in safely.
Will you carry my school books for me, too?
Anything for you, doll. I mean, doctor.
You are incorrigible, Mr. Diamond.
If you say so. I wouldn't know. And call me Jack.
Well, here we are, Mr. I mean Jack. You may go now.
Not yet. I'll wait until you get inside and lock the door. It's my civic duty. Don't you want me to earn my merit badge?
All right, I will do as you suggest. Thank you for walking me home.
No problem. And I'll be back to pick you up at 1:45 and escort you back. I'll be wearing a red carnation so you can recognize me.
Until later then, Mr. Jack. When you get here, be sure to whistle for me. You know how to whistle, don't you? You just put your two lips together and blow.
You got that right, doll. As I headed back to my berth, I couldn't help but smile. Things were looking up. She may be cold as ice now, but I'm sure I had the right formula to warm the dock up. I just needed to let things simmer for a while before turning up the heat.
Does Diamond have what it takes to melt the doctor's heart? Can our intrepid investigators find the mole and ferret out their nefarious scheme? Stay tuned for another episode of Tune Into Murder, where you, the audience, become the detective and solve the crime. Brought to you by our many fine sponsors, including Homemade Theater. This is Hugh Dunnette reminding you to keep your eyes and ears open and your lips sealed. Brought to you by our many fine sponsors, including Homemade Theater, because there's nothing better than something that is homemade, with all the care it deserves for those people who mean the most to you. Ladies and gentlemen, don't touch that dial. It's time to tune into Murder, where you, the audience, become the detective and solve the crime. Brought to you by our many fine sponsors, including Homemade Theater. I'm your host, Hugh Dunnette, bringing you the second installment of this week's mystery, From Birth to Death. Tonight's episode, I Ain't Got No Body. When last we heard from our clue-finding crew, they had just agreed to help General Mayhem find the mole, who was feeding the information to the enemy, and help protect Dr. Hedda Nowlych, whose breakthrough in nuclear physics could help America win the war. But a sound mind needs nourishment as well as rest. So let's join them as they head for a well-deserved dinner.
Gordon, love, I don't know how regular people do it, especially during this war.
What's that, Olive, dear?
How they can so cheerfully give up creature comforts and basic necessities.
Don't tell me you're not enjoying roughing it on our little trek across the nation.
No, I'm not complaining. For us, going without is cutting back to 2 olives in our martinis instead of the usual 3. And although our room is a little cramped, at least we're not packed in like sardines the way normal civilians on this train are.
Speaking of sardines, my dear, it's almost 5 o'clock and I'm feeling peckish. And look, my cup runneth empty.
Nothing an olive pickled in gin can't cure. As they say, it must be 5 o'clock somewhere. And we should be nearing Denver soon. It would be fun to be as high as the city by the time we get there.
Then after you, madame, your wish is my command.
Oh, Mr. Diamond. Fancy meeting you here. You seem to be going the wrong way.
No, just heading down to the doctor's compartment to escort her to dinner, as promised.
And they say that chivalry is dead. Aren't you the gallant knight?
Let's leave this paladin to his damsel duty, my dear. Jack, if you'd like, I can have some mead awaiting you when you finish your quest.
Whiskey, neat, will more than do the trick. The bartender knows my poison. See you in 2 shakes of my trusty steed's tail. Now let's see here. 4F. Let my date with an angel begin. Dr. Nowlych, your Prince Charming has arrived to escort you to the feast. Dr. Nowlych, is everything all right? Hedda, are you okay?
Yes, Mr. Diamond, I just dropped my glass and broke it. Now I have red wine all over my dress. I must change. You go on without me. I'll see you shortly.
Are you sure? I can wait, even help clean up the glass.
That won't be necessary. You go ahead.
It's no trouble at all. I can wait.
No, please, go ahead. If it will help you feel more chivalrous, you can order for me. I will have the fish with a nice red Cabernet Sauvignon.
You got it, my lady. See you in a few.
Oh, Mr. Diamond. On your way to dinner, I presume.
Can't put anything by you, Duchess.
You could try, but I doubt you'd succeed. I'm surprised not to see the professor on your arm, or at least you following her like a little puppy dog.
What? I think you're getting a little senile in your old age, Grandma.
My mind is as sound as a dollar. My vision is still 20/20, and my hearing's pretty good too, sir. Now be a gentleman and escort a senile grandma to a nice old-fashioned end dinner, won't you?
As you wish. My strong arm is at your disposal. Your honor is safe with me.
Well, aren't you the gallant knight? It seems we've arrived. Would you kindly open the door for me?
Gladly. After you, Countess.
Look, Olive, dear, the other half of our bridge game has arrived. I'm looking forward to matching wits with them after dinner.
Hate to disappoint you, but poker's more my style. If stud's your game, I'm your man.
Jack, that does sound a little more intriguing, but won't you be busy making puppy eyes at the professor later?
What's with the puppy routine all of a sudden? Don't you all have bigger mysteries to solve?
Not as entertaining as this one. They say you can't teach an old dog new tricks, but it's fun to watch an old dog act like a not-too-housebroken puppy.
Mrs. Marbles, what's your pleasure?
I would greatly appreciate a nice, neat old-fashioned. And for Mr. Diamond?
I know what Fido wants. Old goat, old crow, neat.
Et tu, Brute? Okay, folks, have your little laugh. Where's our host?
Right here. Sorry to be a little late. Lieutenant, make it the usual, a double.
That bad, General.
Worse, actually, but let's not spoil dinner just yet. Soon as the professor joins us, we can order.
She had a little accident with a wine glass and had to change. She said to start without her.
And you know this how?
Because I was on the other side of her locked door and heard the glass break. She told me all of this through her locked door.
Ah, I knew she was smart, and this proves it, keeping a locked door between you and her.
Is that what you call military humor? She may have not let me in, but she did give me her dinner order. She said she wanted the fish with some Cabernet something or other.
Wait, repeat that again.
You got olives in your ears?
No, usually in my arms. Now, what were her exact words?
She said, go ahead. If it will help you feel more chivalrous, you can order for me. I will have the fish with a nice red Cabernet, some French word. Why?
One does not drink red wine with fish or poultry.
Well, maybe you do, Jack, with 1 or 2 ice cubes to cool it down.
She's in trouble. General, you need to...
Way ahead of you, ma'am. Gordon, come with me.
I'm in your little party too.
Oh, the hell you are, Diamond. You're too close for this whole situation as it is. I need you here to protect the,
Protect the ladies, General. How gallant of you. But as my husband can assure you, it's unnecessary. Not that we'd stay here if you told us to.
Now, but...
General, unless you put us under armed guard, there's no way we'd stay behind. And if you do bring in guards, then there's no reason for Mr. Diamond to stay behind. Plus, you need us.
Care to explain that one to me?
You brought 4 of us here to help you find a spy, and now you want to leave your heavy weapons behind. We're the experts, remember?
Yeah. And each one of us looks at things a little differently, has a different arsenal of knowledge. I may not know what wine goes with what meat, but I know 5 different ways to jimmy a door without it look like it's being done, and other fun tricks of the trade.
Okay, I surrender.
Too bad the Nazis can't be that easy. Oh, stop glaring at me, General. Shall we get going? Time is wasting.
Okay, Gordon, you and I will take point. Diamond, you can bring up the rear. Lieutenant, put down your shaker and bar rag and take the middle of the column just ahead of the ladies. Let's move out. Professor! Professor, open up! Can you hear me? Dr. Knowledge, are you there?
Let me at that door, General. I haven't met a door that could keep me out yet.
I wouldn't if I were you.
Stand back! Ugh.
I told you.
Well, then let's shoot out the lock. Lieutenant, your gun, please.
Diamond, will you shut the hell up and be still for a moment before you really hurt yourself? Or worse yet, one of us?
Maybe all 3 of us can break it in?
Not unless you can bend steel with your bare hands, Gordon, darling. You're a lot of things to me, dear, but you're not Superman.
Ouch! That hurt me, Olive, my love.
Well, Mama will kiss it all better later.
Miss Rossi is right. If you used your eyes and your brains, you'd see that this isn't a normal wooden door. It's actually 2-inch thick steel painted and grained to look like wood.
Then how do we get
Step
in?
aside, everyone. I have the conductor here to let us in. If you would be so kind, sir.
Well, seeing as the general's with you, all right. There you go. Let me know if you need anything else. Miss Marbles knows where to find me in my work cubby.
Professor! Hedda! She's not here. Maybe she's in the...
Mr. Diamond, as you love to say in your quaint vernacular, freeze. Don't move a muscle. Don't blink an eye.
Listen, lady.
No, Jack, you listen. She's right. If we're going to do this, let's do it by the book. You should know better than to contaminate a potential crime scene. This isn't your first whodunit and ran.
The ladies are using their brain, buddy, not our brawn, and it's the right play, as you would say. I suggest we carefully examine the berth and share what we find. Let's not disturb anything, though, shall we?
Okay, I give up. I'll check the powder room, and I'll use my non-monogrammed handkerchief to open it, just so I don't disturb any fingerprints. It's empty.
Okay. Everyone take part of the berth and give it a good going over. Call out in detail what you see so we're all on the same page. Lieutenant, if you'd be so kind as to take all this down.
Yes, sir.
Good. I'll be right back. I need to check on something immediately before we arrive in Denver. Don't any of you leave this compartment until I return.
Well, so much for being as high as Denver. All right, I'll start. On the seat by the window, we have a few books on the essentials of nuclear science, an ashtray with 2 broken but unlit matches, the remaining third of a cigarette, lipstick on the unlit end, bright red in color, a good amount of cigarette ash, but no spent butts. The ash looks like a mixture of tobaccos. Definitely 2 brands.
My turn, darling. Under the table by the window, we have what looks like to be a few pieces of broken glass. One piece seems to be part of the rim of the glass with lipstick on it. A stain, darkish red in color, on the carpeting appears to still be wet. Yes, it is. The smell of it is...
Let me guess. Red wine?
No. Its aroma is reminiscent of something darker, somewhat bitter cherries. Viscosity feels more like a heavy cordial than wine. Also on the floor, what looks to be part of a ticket stub. For this trip, it seems, originating in San Francisco.
I guess I'm next. Nothing special in the comfort station. Sink has some drops of water at the bottom of the bowl. No stains, no blood anywhere. Hand towel, slightly damp. No stains either. Small toiletries bag, still strapped and clapped.
Last, the closet. Small suitcase at the bottom, appears unlocked. Basic clothing, a few blouses, skirts, undergarments, very nondescript. All the hangers hold dresses or dinner attire. Interesting.
I agree. There's something rotten.
Okay, spill it. What's this mere dumb slob of a guy missing?
You're not missing anything. But something important is missing.
If she had spilled wine on her dress, where's the dress? Red wine is not an easy stain to remove. It's not soaking in water. It's not hanging to dry. It's not here, just like the professor.
This should be a treat. We have a potential murder, but no body or real evidence to go on.
Let's not count our corpses until they're laid out, okay? She may still be alive. She may be somewhere else on this train. There may be a simple explanation for all this.
Jack, you know as well as we do, there are rarely simple explanations with anything we're involved in. But let's hope for the best. We should start exploring the train to see if we can turn up anything that will help.
It appears we are slowing down. We must be approaching Denver. This could be a problem. Our potential murderer or kidnapper or spy could easily get off here, and we'd be none the wiser.
There's no way we can cover every car's exit to see who gets off and on.
No need to. That's where I've been, making arrangements for soldiers to be stationed all along the platform at every entrance and exit. If the professor leaves this train with or without anyone else, we'll know. And I have more stationed at the baggage cars to ensure nothing big goes in or out of this train without being checked first.
Provided one of your boys isn't your mole, right, General?
Diamond, I don't tell you how to run your business. Don't tell me how to run mine. This isn't my first cloak and dagger jaunt. There are 3 men stationed at each point, each from a different company. The odds of 3 moles being picked blindly and all of them spies are pretty astronomical, if you ask me. Now, our next steps are to
get back to the club car, compare notes, and divide up potential suspects and persons of interest to interview. The 4 of us, we should be able to divide and conquer quickly over dinner.
Capital idea.
How can you think of eating at a time like this?
As Admiral James would say, first order of business, survival. Can't catch a criminal on an empty stomach or an empty martini glass, shall we?
Is the professor alive or dead? Have our enemies struck a blow against freedom in our own homeland? Can our famous 4 solve a mystery without any clues? Stay tuned for another episode of Tune Into Murder, where you, the audience, become the detective and solve the crime. Brought to you by our many fine sponsors, including Homemade Theater. This is Hugh Dunnette reminding you to keep your eyes and ears open and your lips sealed. Brought to you by our many fine sponsors, including Homemade Theater, doing what we do best to keep you entertained. Ladies and gentlemen, don't touch that dial. It's time to Tune Into Murder, where you, the audience, become the detective and solve the crime. Brought to you by our many fine sponsors, including Homemade Theater. I'm your host, Hugh Dunnette, bringing you the third installment of this week's mystery, From Birth to Death. Tonight's episode, Lullaby for the Big Sleep. When last we heard from our crime-fighting crew, they were puzzling over the strange disappearance of Dr. Hedda Nowlych, whose breakthrough in nuclear physics could help America win the war. There were more questions than clues in the professor's compartment, and nobody could find a body. Let's listen in.
Dinner went as well as one could hope. We discussed possible theories and divided up who would speak to whom about anything they saw or heard. The general reported that no one suspicious had gotten on the train, and no one or nothing suspicious left it either. Surprisingly, only a few people boarded the train in Denver. He and his orderly excused themselves and left the planning and execution to us, as well as fending for ourselves through dessert and drinks. Mr. Diamond was taking this very hard, harder than one with a reputation of being hard-boiled should be taking it.
Mr. Diamond. Jack, would you please stop pacing back and forth like a caged animal? I'm beginning to feel seasick.
Let's not waste all that energy, Jack. Channel it into the investigation at hand. Now we all have our assignments, so I suggest we get to them right away. Shall we reconvene here back in 2 hours to compare notes or lay our cards on the table, as you'd say, Jack?
Sure. Why not? It's not like I have anything pressing like a kidnapping or a murder to take up my valuable time. Yeah, hold your horses. What do you want?
Excuse me, sir. I was told by one of the general's officers to join you here in the club car and to offer my service. Here is my card.
Pionus Parrot?
That's Parrot.
Whatever. Consulting detective. Seems the train's crawling with our kind.
Pie, is that you? What are you doing here?
Oh, I am part of your group, but I wasn't able to join you at the start. So I joined up with the group here in Denver.
Everyone, this is Pionus Parrot, an expatriate of France and Argentina's answer to Sherlock Holmes. Allow me to introduce you to Gordon Martini, Olive Rossi, and Jack Diamond, whom you've already encountered, unfortunately. Delighted to see you again, Pie. I'm sorry it can't be under better circumstances.
Oh, when is it ever? Care to enlighten me on the situation? Are we dealing with robbery or espionage?
Elevate that to possible kidnapping.
Or murder.
What?
That's right, Birdie. And we're burning moonlight, flapping our gums to give you the backstory. Hey, Duchess, why don't you bring Pretty Polly up to speed and take him under your wing on your rounds?
While your manners leave a lot to be desired, Mr. Diamond, your suggestion is an excellent one. Pie, come with me and I will bring you up to speed, as our diamond in the rough would quaintly put it. See you all back here later.
Okay.
So, madame, where do we begin?
We start at the top, the head conductor. I believe he should be ahead of us in the next car. Yes, there he is. Conductor, may I trouble you?
Oh, not at all, Miss Marbles. Do we have a deep mystery before us to solve?
Well, actually, yes.
Oh, really? I was just kidding.
Crime is never a joking matter, sir.
Ah, well, then any help I can offer, I'll gladly give, ma'am.
Allow me to introduce you to Mr. Pionus Parrot, an associate of mine and an esteemed expert in our profession.
Oh, you are too kind, madame. My good man, we were wondering if you could clear up a few questions that we have.
Well, I'll do the best I can do. That's all any of us really can do, right?
Well said, sir. Now, first, a question of keys.
Right.
How many keys are there on this train?
Well, there's
Where
not-
are they kept?
Well,
Who
I-
has access to them?
I-
How are their whereabouts tracked during
Well,
a trip? Are
I have
they...
Whoa, ma'am, slow down, or I'll forget the question before I can give you your answers. Now, ordinarily, I'd have a complete set of keys as the head conductor, and my assistants would have a set for their sections of cars only. Besides the sets we all carry, there's a backup set locked away in the mail and valuables car, and the engineer and I are the only ones with access to the lockbox and combination.
You said ordinarily. That leads me to the conclusion that this is not an ordinarily occasion.
Well, you're right on that, ma'am. Now, for this trip, locks were changed for the club car and the two cars on either side of it as part of military protocol. The general and 3 of his staff have the master key for that area, and I have the only other one right here in my breast pocket. See?
Yes, I see. Thank you. I recognize it from when you let us into the professor's room earlier.
Well, speaking of which, madame, if it wouldn't be too much trouble...
I don't see why not. Conductor, when we are finished speaking with a few other people, could we impose on you to let us into the professor's room once more so Mr. Parrot may have a chance to see what he can see?
Well, if the general has no objections, I don't see why not. Just let me know when you'd like to.
We will, sir. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. And here's a little something for your troubles. No, I insist. Until later then, my good man.
What did you just slip in his pocket, Pie?
I believe you call it a gratuity or a bribe for future help.
Pionus, sometimes you are so incorrigible. Now, on to our next questioning.
If you don't mind, madame, I will make a brief a comfort stop and then catch up with the conductor to go view the scene of the crime now rather than later.
Well, we can take a little detour on our journey to find the truth. I will accompany you, and we can go from
No need
there.
to, madame. Dividing up the tasks lets us get to the solution that much quicker. Perhaps my eyes, without hearing what you have already found, will see something in a different light.
An excellent suggestion, Pie. I will see you after my next interview, and I hope I have some information that will let us see through these murky waters.
Until then, a good sleuthing to you.
Well, Olive, my dear, once more into the breach. Ready?
Always. For a martini, Gordon, darling.
Clever girl.
Can you guys wait just a minute? Hold on.
Wait, Joe, I'm nowhere near decent. At least let me get in the bathroom and...
Can I help you?
We hope so. I'm Gordon Martini, and this is my enchanting wife, Olive Rossi. We're following up on a little matter for General Mayhem.
We would like to ask you and your...
Oh, no. I'm the only one here, as you can plainly see. Honest.
He's not lying, darling. He is the only one in this room, as you can plainly see.
And that's not all I can plainly see. Soldier? Seems to be snowing in the south.
What? Oh! Sorry, ma'am.
That's better, don't you think? No bad drafts cooling things down too much, soldier. Yes, you are the only one in this room. But we're more interested in who's in the bathroom.
Honestly, this is not what it looks like.
It looks like 2 lovebirds making the most of a quick honeymoon after just getting married.
What? Wait, how could you possibly know that we were...
And that's what we do. Know things by noticing things. specks of rice still in your new bride's hair, a wedding ring that doesn't quite fit her finger, a bottle of wine and 2 glasses. It's obvious.
Now that you know how well we notice things, we'd like to know how well you notice things. Specifically, anything you may have seen or heard from the compartment next door.
Well, we haven't been here very long, about a couple of hours, and, well, we were a
We were
little...
caught up in the moment of undying love. My husband and I know just how you feel.
We do? I'm having trouble recalling, my dear. Would you care to refresh my memory?
Down, Tiger. Work now, play later.
I wish we could help, but as Judy says, we were a little preoccupied. I mean, I ship out once we get to New York, so we're making the most of our honeymoon as we can.
Quite understandable. Maybe you heard or saw something while you were catching your breath from your calisthenics.
Well, I don't know if this is anything, but I do recall hearing 2 voices. Their discussion was low, but it did get heated at one point, and I thought I heard a slapping sound.
Slapping? Are you sure about that, sweetie? I've never heard anything like that.
Well, that's because you were sound asleep from all those calisthenics. You look so cute when you're asleep. My head kept going up and down every time you'd breathe.
Well, that's adorable to know. Please go on. What else do you recall?
Well, the voices got lower, and then I heard a knock at the door, and then this woman's voice answered through the door, and then there was this sound of shattering glass as if it was thrown against our adjoining wall, and there was some more conversation, and then a man's voice was in the hallway, and he said goodbye and left whistling.
The other voice in the room, was it a man's or a woman's?
I can't be sure. It was deeper than a man's, but it could have been a man or a woman.
Do you recall anything else? Any sounds like a fight or a struggle?
I don't think so. Well, there were a few more quick, quiet comments, and then I heard some rummaging around in the room. And then one voice said something like, "You're coming with me." And then the door opened and closed, and I heard steps going down the hall in the other direction. Did something bad happen?
We don't want to alarm you 2 lovebirds, but quite possibly something bad did happen. But you have a nice, strong soldier boy here to protect you. If you have any questions, I'm sure we'll know where to find you.
Thanks, sir. If we remember anything else, we'll let you know right away.
That's all we can ask, soldier. Now, enjoy what's left of your honeymoon while you can. That's an order.
Yes, sir. I mean, ma'am, sir.
You've learned lesson number 1 to surviving marriage, Private. Always obey a direct order from your commander-in-chief.
Oh.
That's enough out of you. About face, forward march, double time.
I hear and obey, General Darling. Hop, 2, 3, 4.
I shouldn't be surprised who they decided I should question. Guess they figured I might come on too strong and spook any civilian I spoke to, so I got dealt a couple of military cards. This little Jack drew a possible queen and a king for a day, namely the general's orderly and the officer of the day. I just had to hope I didn't pick up a pair of jokers instead. I was about to go in search of the OD when the orderly waltzed into the club car, making it an easy decision which hand to play first. Lieutenant, you're right on time.
For what, Mr. Diamond?
Well, I could think of a couple of interesting things. Right now, it would be to answer a few questions and help us find some answers. Are you game for that?
As you would say, go ahead, shoot.
Pretty witty. Okay, first question. Where's the OD on this train?
Excuse me?
Why? Did you do something that might offend my delicate sensibilities?
Not everyone is as crass as you are, Mr. Diamond. The OD detectives have such interesting terms for things. You can find that room at the end of the hall, second door on the left. Do you need to go now? Because I can wait.
No, I can hold on a little longer. Next question. How long have you been the General's orderly?
About 6 months.
And how long has he been working with the professor on this new energy source?
About the same time.
Any changes in the General's attitude, his mental state lately?
What are you suggesting?
I'm not suggesting, I'm asking. Has he been under a lot of pressure lately, and has it affected him?
Well, yes to the first part, and no more than usual to the second part. Granted, the potential danger to the professor has him concerned.
Speaking of which, what's your take on the professor? Is she the real goods?
If you're asking, does she know her stuff? She knows all that and more. I consider her brilliant in her field. The Pentagon would be foolish not to listen to her theories and her ideas for implementation.
Last question. How do I put this politely? Are the General and the professor involved in any late night experiments?
How dare you, Mr. Diamond? I'm outraged that you'd suggest such a thing. Bring anything like that up again and you'll learn firsthand how well I can shoot with my Browning.
Okay, I surrender. Don't shoot. I'll retire from the battlefield quietly. I think I learned everything I could. Thanks, Lieutenant. I guess I'll go find that OD now. See you in the funny papers.
Now let me see. Olive and Gordon were looking into the compartment just before the professor's, which leaves me with the one just after.
See who it is, Trudy. I don't want to be disturbed.
Sure, Pookie. I mean, Mr. Pease. Who is it?
Trudy!
What? I'm doing what you said.
Excuse me, I'm Mrs. Marbles, and I'd like to ask you a few questions at the General's request.
Well, why didn't you say so? Come on in.
Mrs. Marbles, is it? I'm Warren Pease. Please excuse my secretary, Trudy Light. She's relatively new and still learning her position and duties. Now, how may I help you?
I am following up on something for General Mayhem. First, could you tell me a little about yourself?
Oh, by all means. I'm in fuel oil, you see. My company provides fuel mixtures to the military to help with the war effort. Besides the usual petroleum products, we are conducting vital research in alternative fuels such as corn oil to help stretch out our supplies even further.
Kind of corny, isn't it?
As I was saying, we are traveling with the General to Washington, D.C. to share our progress over these past 6 months.
I didn't realize we were looking into so many different alternatives to fuel. Had you met Professor Nowlych before this trip?
Let me think. No, not before this trip. With corn research, we tend to keep ourselves in silos like others in the energy business.
Corn, silos. That's funny, Pookie. I mean, Mr. Pease.
Do you see this as a possibility to really help, sir?
Oh, most definitely, ma'am. We found out that even thinning out a petroleum mixture with the equivalent of corn liquor can increase the RPMs with some of our subs and get us a few more knots. Speed, you see, is a necessity in war, Miss Marbles.
As is making a profit?
Ma'am, I bleed red, white, and blue just like any other patriotic American. If I make a profit on the side for helping the war effort, well, that's the American way. And I am not gouging the government like some of my fellow businessmen are.
Well, back to the matter at hand. I wonder if you may have seen or heard anything from the compartment next door during the day today?
Well, not that I can recall. Of course, most of the day was spent meeting with the general and a few of his staff on our upcoming briefings.
Did you forget? We came back here after lunch so I could take some dictation from you.
I hardly think that Miss Marbles needs a blow-by-blow description of our day, Trudy.
It's hard to say. Trudy, do you recall anything unusual at that time?
Well, now that you mention it, while I was taking down everything Mr. Pease was giving me, I recall a loud bump on the wall. He was giving it to me so fast I was having a hard time keeping up with him. That happens a lot when he finishes before I really get started and I have to play catch up. Anyway, I heard this loud bump on the wall twice in a row, and that distracted my concentration, and I stopped to figure out what it was, and then I forgot what I was doing. So I had to ask Mr. Pease to give it to me again later so I could get it down correctly.
That will be enough, Trudy. Why don't you head off to our private dining car and have a cocktail while I finish with Miss Marbles?
Sure, Mr. Pease. It was nice meeting you, Mrs. Marbles.
How long has she been with you, Mr. Pease?
About 6 months. She came recommended by one of my energy associates who had to let her go to maintain some semblance of marital bliss. She really is talented, though, in secretarial work.
Yes, I'm sure she's everything you'd want in a secretary, and more. But you've only known her for 6 months?
I know where you're going with this, ma'am, and you're wrong. She's as American as the Statue of Liberty, hot dogs, apple pie, and baseball. And she is a baseball nut to top it all off. She knows teams, records, stats, the whole shebang.
Thank you, Mr. Pease. If I have any more questions, I'll know where to find you. Goodbye.
Good evening, Miss Marbles, and I hope you find the answers that you're looking for.
I wonder if Pie has had a chance. Oh, Pie, there you are.
Oh, Lucy, you startled me. I was closing up the murder scene and then going to find you, and poof, you appear right out of thin air like a ghost.
Well, I was just next door interviewing the two people there to see if they had heard anything.
And did they?
All in good time, sir. Like a dairy farmer is wont to say, I don't like to chew my cud twice. Let's find the others and lay our cards on the table, as Mr. Diamond would tell us, shall we?
It seems our intrepid investigators are coming up with more questions than answers. Will they be able to unweave this tangled web they've landed in? Is time running out for our daring detectives? Will they find the professor, alive or dead? Stay tuned for another episode of Tune Into Murder, where you become the detective and solve the crime. Brought to you by our many fine sponsors, including Homemade Theater. This is Hugh Dunnette reminding you to keep your eyes and ears open and your lips sealed. Brought to you by our many fine sponsors, including Homemade Theater. HMT appreciates your help in keeping our home fires burning and our stage lights lit, so we can win the war against boredom and reruns. Thanks for your continued support. Together, we can make sure theater is alive and thriving right here in your area. Ladies and gentlemen, don't touch that dial. It's time to tune into Murder, where you, the audience, become the detective and solve the crime. Brought to you by our many fine sponsors, including Homemade Theater. I'm your host, Hugh Dunnette, bringing you the fourth installment of this week's mystery, From Birth to Death. Tonight's episode, Somebody's Been Dying in My Bed. There's still no sign of Dr. Hedda Nowlych, whose breakthrough in nuclear physics could help America win the war. Let's listen in as our fact-finding fours share what they've learned.
I have heard it said among the hoi polloi that there are three things you should never witness being made: laws, a meal in a restaurant, and sausage. In my mind, the one that would turn your stomach the most is seeing politics in action. A close second would be a group of consulting detectives trying to solve a crime. Messy doesn't begin to describe the situation. As we sat in the club car, generously lubricating our minds, we realized we weren't very far from square one, especially with one important piece missing, namely, the body. Tempers were starting to flare, and as any scientist worth their alkaloid will tell you, alcohol only fuels a fire.
Tell me again, Parrot.
That's Parrot. Are you deaf or just a little bit slow?
I don't have time for your little rhyme, Polly. I just want to know what you know. Stop acting like the cat that swallowed the canary. Or has the cat got your tongue, too? Start squawking, pretty boy.
Mr. Diamond, that's quite enough. Pius told you several times he didn't see anything more than what we all saw. Nothing new. Now, before we sink to the level of fisticuffs, I think we should all retire and sleep on it. Maybe a good night's sleep will clear our minds, and who knows what dreams may lead us to.
More like nightmares, Lucy. Have you ever slept on one of those pull-down bunks before? I think they purchased them wholesale from the Spanish Inquisition.
Really, Olive, they can't be as bad as that.
Actually, they're worse.
Whoa, hold it, everyone. Hold it, I'm having an epiphany here.
I will alert the media. When they hear it's you, they'll probably use Second Coming Tap, since it would be a miracle.
Then go and get on your squawk box, Parrot.
That's Parrot. Oh, forget it. What is your big brain flash?
I know that I didn't, since I was centered on examining the bathroom, but did anyone check the bed? The pull-down bunk?
No.
Some great detectives we are. We all missed the biggest clue in the room.
You don't think the professor could be...
Only one way to find out, Duchess. And we should do this toot sweet.
Agreed. Let's go.
We need to get the pass key for this.
Allow me, madame. I will meet you at the room in 2 checks of the lamb's tail.
Then hop to it, Froggy, before someone else croaks.
Really, Mr. Diamond, why must you be so insulting to Pi?
Oh, no need to worry, madame. Easy insults have no effect on me. I am proud of my heritage and the quaint little nickname for my people. As you can see from the little frog typing I wear, I bid you all adieu, including you, my cute little monkey in a suit.
Shall we, darling?
Ladies first, my dear.
Mr. Diamond, I cannot understand your rude, boorish behavior to Mr. Parrot. You said you've never met him before. Why are you so antagonistic toward him?
I don't know, Duchess. I can't put my finger on it. Call it a feeling, a hunch, an itch you just can't scratch, but he rubs me the wrong way, I tells you. Something smells funny about Monsieur Pepe Le Pew. I just know it.
Jack, it's that jingoistic hyperbole and fear of what's different that causes such distrust in anything outside our comfort zone.
I'd probably agree with you if I knew what the heck you just said.
That's a discussion for another time. Here we are. And I believe I hear the conductor and Mr. Parrot coming. Yes. My ears are still 20/20.
Thanks for waiting patiently, folks. And thank you, Mr. Parrot, for slipping me another token of your appreciation. If you need anything else, just let me know. I'll go tell the general I've let you back in the room. He'd want to know.
Thank you, sir. The room seems to be undisturbed. Mr. Diamond, if you and Mr. Martini would be so kind as to...
Do it very carefully, darling, just in case.
As you wish.
Oh, my.
Damn it. I knew it. Why? Why does anyone I try to get close to keep ending up dead?
Conductor, would you be so kind as to get the general for us while we thoroughly examine this crime scene again?
Right away, ma'am.
Okay. By the gospel according to Sherlock. Let's do this step by step, describing what we see and find.
First, body is face down into the bed and the pillow. She's wearing the same outfit as she had on when we met her this afternoon.
Feet and hands are not tied. It looks like no ligature marks on the neck to suggest strangling.
Well, someone played Mr. Sandman for real with the doc. With your permission, ladies. Gordo, will you help me turn her?
Gordo? Okay, Jacko. Be careful, oh. Don't want to disturb, oh, anything. Oh.
Well, we know one fib that was told. This dress does not have a hint of a stain on it. She probably lied to you, Mr. Diamond, to save your life.
Great. Just what I need to hear.
A small cut on her right index finger, not very deep or life-threatening, possibly from the broken glass. The body seems rigid, more than you'd expect from regular rigor mortis.
Just below her right hand, looks like a word written in blood.
What? Where? Let me see. Perhaps she has named her killer.
No, it's just a series of letter groups. A-U, F-R-O-G-E. Aren't those chemical symbols?
Could be, Duchess. I'm not up on more than basic chemistry. I couldn't tell you if that was the recipe for nitroglycerin or a malted milkshake.
It could be a formula, but why would the professor write that as the last thing she did? Wasn't she more in the nuclear physics side of things?
Just another thing for us to puzzle out, darling. This little mystery is worse than being lost in a labyrinth, and no olive trail to lead us back home.
I don't see any other marks on her that suggests foul play or a murder weapon.
Wait, on the side of her neck, a small, dark red mark, like a pinprick.
I think you're right, Jack. And there seems to be just a hint of crusty, milky residue around the mark. Too bad we don't have a lab on board this train to analyze it.
Just like using domestic olives when imported aren't available, we make do with what we have, my dear. I think we've learned everything we can here. I suggest the rest of you head back to the club car while Jack and I wait for the general. We'll be along before you have your second martini, Olive, darling.
Is that a threat or a promise?
That's a promise. Cross my liver and hope to go dry.
All right, gentlemen, we will see you later.
Take care.
Okay, Gordo. What's the real reason you wanted me to stay behind? We could have easily called a porter or an orderly to come and stand guard.
Well, Jacko, if the lantern hasn't gone off in your head yet, let me enlighten you. We're looking for not one, but two people in this little hunting expedition. There's no way that this was done by just one person. There may be a mole on the inside, but my gut tells me there's a fox in the hen house too. What say you and I set up a little trap, catch some vermin?
If it lets me get my mitts on the lowlife that gave the professor a half-life, count me in. So what's the plan, my man?
Here's what I think we're going to need.
Even with the corpus delectable finally turning up, it seems our gang of good guys aren't getting a glimmer of a solution yet. All the clues are there for you to see, if you're on the right track. Do you have what it takes to help our crime-fighting crew capture a killer? Stay tuned for the final episode of Tune In to Murder, brought to you by our many fine sponsors, including Homemade Theater. This is Hugh Dunnette reminding you to keep your eyes and ears open and your lips sealed. Brought to you by our many fine sponsors, including Homemade Theater. Did you know that all of tonight's stellar cast members are part of Homemade Theater's growing family of actors and volunteers? Please join their effort to keep the arts available in your area. Donations are always welcome and are just a click away. Go to homemadetheater.org to see how you can help. Ladies and gentlemen, don't touch that dial. It's time to tune into Murder, where you, the audience, become the detective and solve the crime. Brought to you by our many fine sponsors, including Homemade Theater. I'm your host, Hugh Dunnette, bringing you the final installment of this week's mystery, From Birth to Death. Tonight's episode, Half a Life's Better Than No Life at All. To quickly recap, Dr. Hedda Nowlych finally turned up in a state of perpetual rest. While she remained mum on what's happened to her body, it spoke volumes. Trouble was, our daring detectives didn't have a Rosetta Stone to help translate, but they did have a good starting point now. Let's listen to see how far they've come.
While I may have a few wee complaints about the accommodations on this trip, the service was excellent, especially when it came to information. Nothing like having a general on hand to order up the answers to any questions you might have. Once we were all back in the club car, we briefed the general on what we've learned so far. The professor's body was moved to one of the military storage cars and kept under guard. It was getting pretty late, so before we turned into pumpkins and other vegetative states, each of us gave a list of information that we needed. He wired our requests ahead, and our answers would arrive about the same time we did in Omaha, just in time for breakfast. Oh, there's nothing like sitting in the morning sun, a mimosa in one hand, special dossier in the other, contemplating life's little mysteries. As I said, the service was excellent.
Good morning, Olive, my love. I see you're already at the grindstone.
Oh, good morning, Gordon, darling. You know what they say, no sleep for the wicked.
Who would dare say that about you, dear? Tell me, and I will throttle him within an inch of his life.
It's good to see that chivalry's not dead. Your file is right next to your martini. I suggest you skim it quickly before Mr. Diamond arrives. Now, are you sure about including him on this?
Positive. If there's one thing I'd never doubt, it's Jack's love and faith in America. Top that off with him feeling responsible for the professor's death, and we've got our best bloodhound on the scent.
Speak of the devil. Come in, Mr. Diamond.
Morning, all. I see you have your reports. Any surprises?
One or two. And you?
The same. I'm happy to have two things I thought confirmed. So, Plan Milo is a go?
It's a go.
Excuse me, darling. Plan Milo?
Named for an English Springer Spaniel I had when I was a kid. Hell of a bird dog. Could flush anything.
I do feel bad about leaving Lucy in the dark on this.
As do I, dear, but we need honest reactions when everyone gathers, which should be in
20 minutes. The generals asked everyone to assemble in the club car. Everyone we spoke to should be present and accounted for. Then the curtain goes up. Break a leg, kids. See you in 20.
Thank you, 20.
Old theater traditions never die, do they, darling?
No, they just fade out like a final light cue.
Speaking of cues, this is mine to leave. I need to finalize the last part of the plan with the general before the curtain goes up. Parting is such sweet sorrow that I shall say goodnight till it be morrow.
Hey, that's my line, Romeo. Now go. 20 minutes found us all in the club car in various emotional states, from curious to indignant to downright confused. The general waited for everyone to settle in, then started the first act of our little production.
Thank you all for joining us this morning. I know it's an inconvenience, but when matters of national security lie in the balance, sacrifices must be made, and we appreciate your cooperation.
Well, I don't know what else we can tell you, but we're happy to help. Right, Mr. Pease?
By all means. Now, what can we do?
Just listen as we go over what we know and recreate the past few days. For example, Mr. Pease, you mentioned being in the energy business, but you didn't mention what I just learned this morning, that a couple of the big corporations are trying to squeeze you out. This experiment in corn fuel is your last-ditch effort to stay in the game with the big boys. So other alternative fuels, like nuclear power, would throw a monkey wrench into the works for you, so to say. That could be viewed as a motive for murder.
Now, wait a minute. I came here to help, not to be falsely accused by a meddlesome busybody without any shred of proof.
Meddlesome busybody. It has a certain ring to it, don't you think? I like it. And stop glowering at me, sir. We all had doubts you had anything to do with the disappearance or murder of the professor.
Then why did you just about accuse me now?
You always test a hypothesis and study a subject under pressure. One of the 10 Commandments in the Bible, according to Sherlock. Once you eliminate the impossible, whatever remains, however improbable, must be the truth. Likewise, we can eliminate our 2 lovebirds, G.I. Joe and Judy. They were too busy I-doing to do anything else.
Well, thanks, ma'am, I guess.
Then there's the matter of the spilled drink and the broken glass. I thought I'd smelled that dark cherry bouquet before. The little liquid in question is Vishnufka. Your folks do a bang-up job, General.
You mean Polish rocket fuel?
2 points for you. How do you know about it?
I spent some of my formative years in the lower west side of Chicago.
I'd like to hear about that sometime. Anyway, according to the professor's dossier, it's her favorite after-dinner cordial. So, someone probably brought a flask along to share and get her relaxed.
Wait a minute. Are you insinuating that one of us here poisoned the professor?
Not at all. We know for a fact that no one in this room killed Hedda Knowledge because she's still alive.
What? But we all saw the body.
We all saw a body. The body of someone impersonating the professor.
Here to explain yourself, Diamond?
Starting to get a little tense in here. Mind if I smoke? Hey, Parrot, got a light? I'm all out of matches.
It's Oh, forget about it. Here, Gumshoe, knock yourself out.
It goes back to the basics. Notice the little things. Like the books on nuclear physics we found in the compartment. The professor wouldn't need introductory level textbooks, but someone posing as her would need them to bone up on the subject, to carry on conversations. The different cigarette ashes suggested someone spent some time talking to her in the room. No real sign of a struggle, which suggested she was acquainted with her killer, or was playing her part to get more information out of her murderer.
So, if someone was pretending to be the professor, where was the professor all this time?
Where is the safest place to keep something valuable?
As Mr. Edgar Allan Poe showed us so well in the Purloined Letter, hide it in plain sight.
You win a Cupid doll, Duchess. Don't you agree, Lieutenant? Or should I say, Dr. Hedda Knowledge?
That's preposterous.
Is it? Anytime we saw you, you were here at the general's side with guards outside the room. The one time you ventured out into the train with us, the general positioned you in the middle of the column, the force at front and the back. Like I said, the little things.
Yes, the little things like the train slowing down right now. General, do we have an unannounced stop on this part of the trip?
No, we do not. Jack, head up to the engine to find out what's happening. Gordon, you're with me. The rest of you remain here.
General, shall I remain here?
No, your room is the safest place for you. But I need to,
We can escort her, General.
No, General. I will see that the professor gets to her room safely. You can count on me.
I'll go with you, Pi.
No, stay here. I insist. I'd be devastated if anything should happen to you.
Score another one for chivalry. Shall we resume our embroidery, ladies?
okay, everyone, move out.
My room is just ahead on the left, Mr. Parrot.
Why don't you sit down here and try to relax? Can I give you something to calm your nerves? Some Vishnufka, perhaps?
What? What are you talking about? You're the
killer? Only when I need to be. We were so hoping you would join our side. That was the primary plan. But judging by the situation, we must go to plan B instead.
And that is?
If we can't have your knowledge, then no one shall have your knowledge. Knowledge? I am very, very sorry.
You bet you are, you dirty bird.
How did you, where did you come from?
All in good time, Professor. Now, let's get our little bird back to the club car before we find him a nice sturdy cage to live in forever.
I don't know how I can thank you, Mr. Diamond.
We're not done yet, Professor. While this raven will be nevermore, there's still the mole to worry about. Now for phase 2.
Jack, what are you doing here? And what's happened to Pi?
I creamed Pi right in the face. He's the killer.
Oh, I don't believe it. What proof do you have?
All the proof you need. Just as soon as my...
Your wonderful husband and the general return. We're here. I take it things went according to plan?
Pretty much. Parrot's got a glass beak. That helped.
Will someone please explain what's going on?
Someone please restrain our jailbird. Professor, may I have the cuffs you carry as part of your, uniform, please?
Yes, sir, and not a moment too soon. He seems to be coming out of it.
What is the meaning of this? I insist you release me at once.
Don't you just love it when the caged bird sings? Okay, pretty boy, start squawking.
I have nothing to say under the terms of the Geneva Convention.
Save your breath. We can sing just as prettily as you. First, there was that cryptic note that was left for us in blood. A-U-F-R-O-G-E. That bothered us for the longest time. Possibly a chemical equation. We'd have gold, francium, oxygen, and germanium. Well, that didn't make sense either, since only one of those was radioactive. When writing up our questions for the general staff, I sounded out the chemical symbols. Oh, froge. It made a little more sense. Replacing the first symbol with its actual name gave us gold frog. Now that made a lot of sense. In case you didn't know, I am quite the student of poisons. It really helps in our line of work. And the milky white secretions from the golden poison dart frogs of Central and South America are used by natives to cover their darts and arrows. One small dose in a pinprick can kill a man by slowly paralyzing nerve connections. So the muscles contract, the person can't breathe, and they smother themselves.
My turn. I never liked the looks of your plumage, Parrot, so my research request was about you. You may be Argentina's greatest detective, but you have quite a colorful history before that. You and your family left France for French Guiana. Isn't that where Devil's Island is located? Were you just trying to stay close to Daddy the jailbird? You became quite the criminal in Colombia. Started small, as a pickpocket no less, built up a little empire, and when things got too hot, little Froggy jumped and headed for the hills, or the Pampas in your case. Who makes for some of the best consultants on crime? Criminals, of course. So you made quite a new life for yourself while eliminating future competition. And an old pickpocket could easily pick a key from a conductor while slipping him a nice tip. How we doing so far?
My past is one thing, but you have no proof I murdered the orderly.
By the way, remember the 2 broken unlit matches we found in the ashtray? Seems Pretty Boy here is used to using the self-striking kind, which these were not. Thanks for the matches earlier. See, they're a match for the matches at the scene of the crime, which makes you a match for murder 1.
C'est ridicule. How could I have killed someone if I didn't even board the train until Denver, well after the murder occurred?
Which brings us to the ticket stub we found. Most people would assume it was the professor's ticket and not give it a second thought, but we're not most people. As Diamond and I were going over the details of our little trap with the general last night, the discarded ticket came up. What you may not know, and the general will confirm, is none of his staff, including the dead orderly, have regular fare tickets. Their trips were purchased with military vouchers. Can you produce your ticket, sir? Or did you lose it in the scuffle to subdue your quarry?
Much as I didn't want to believe it, I must face facts. You are right, Olive. It is the little things we notice, such as Pie's tie pin. I believe it is a small golden frog. Really, Pie, you resort to such a triteness for a murder weapon.
Oh, a little lab test will help confirm if that was the real murder weapon. Now all we have to do is,
Find out who your accomplice was.
Yeah.
Who's the mole, Pie?
What's the matter? Cat got your tongue, Polly?
No, and neither will you.
Stop him! He just bit a poison capsule.
Hitler!
Damn it! We were so close. We can't catch a cold, let alone a break.
Speaking of cold, I think I'm coming down with one.
Gesundheit!
Sprechen Sie Deutsch, mein Fräulein?
What? What are you saying? You don't think that I'm a good red-blooded American girl. I can prove it. Ask me anything about our good old USA. Baseball, movies, songs. I can prove it. I can sing the Star-Spangled Banner, all 4 verses.
And that just sealed your fate, little kitty Kraut. No real American knows more than the first verse of the national anthem.
Wait, I can make a deal with you. Names, lots of names.
you have plenty of time to sing your heart out where you're going. It'll be a true delight to house you for the next 30 or so years. Come on.
You know, Jack, I actually do know the 4th verse of the Star-Spangled Banner. I had to learn it in my civics class in high school. Should I sing it for you?
Not sure there's enough martinis in the world for that, darling. I mean, with you on our side, how can we not win the war?
Once again, evil is vanquished, and you, our listening audience, have helped us catch another murder. Until next week, when you join us again to Tune In to Murder, this is Hugh Dunnette reminding you to keep your eyes and ears open and your lips seagull. Ladies and gentlemen, let me introduce you to our cast for this evening. Alexander Benson as Gordon Martini, Bridget Dunigan as Olive Rossi, Jonathan Hefter, Jack Diamond, Marilyn Detmer as Mrs. Lucy Marbles, Anderson-Sommo as the Conductor, General Mayhem, G.I. Joe, and Warren Pease, Toni Anderson-Sommo as Pennywise, Lieutenant Orderly, Professor Hedda Knowledge, our young bride, and Trudy Delight. Drew Greenwald as Pionus Parrot, our Parisian private eye. I'm Hugh Dunnette as your announcer, and Tom Moeller as Axel Foley, our sound engineer. We hope you enjoyed the show, and please support homemade theater. Thank you, and have a good evening.